있습니다. 4차 산업혁명 정책과 산업경제 혁신이라는 주제로 스위스, 영국, 슬로바키아, 콜롬비아, 인도네시아 그리고 미국의 정책 사례를 살펴보는 시간 갖도록 하겠습니다. 2부과 진행에는 이상범 전자부품연구원 동감권 지역 부부장님께서 좌장을 맡아서 수고해 주시겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to open session number 2, which is on the fourth industrial revolution policy and social innovation. It will be a great opportunity to learn about the policy cases in Switzerland, UK, Slovakia, Colombia, Indonesia, and the US. Please welcome our session moderator, Mr. Sang-Bub Lee, the Southeast Regional President of the Korea Electronics Technology Institute. The floor is all yours now.
네, 안녕하세요. 방금 소개받은 이상범 본부장입니다. 사회자께서 방금 전에 말씀하신 바와 같이 2부과 주제는 4차 산업혁명 정책과 산업경제 혁신이 되겠습니다. 오늘 4분의 발표자를 초빙을 드렸고 토론자를 두 분 모셨습니다. 지금부터 발표자와 토론자를 한 분씩 소개해드리겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표자는 로봇 골프 스위스 인더스트리 2025 이니셔티브 회장입니다. 네, 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 준비하시는 동안 다른 두 번째 발표자는 그레이스 캐리 영국 기업 에너지 산업 전략부 담당자입니다. 네, 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 세 번째 발표자는 윌란 나이치악 슬로바키아 외교 EU부 경제정책국장님이십니다. 국장님은 작년까지 주한 슬로바키아 네 번째 발표자는 호르헤 카스티뇨 구티에레스 콜롬비아 금융감독원장님이십니다. 다음으로는 토론자 소개를 드리겠습니다. 두 분 모셨습니다. 클리어 캐리 블룸버그 NEF 고문하고 참석하셨습니다. 박수 부탁드립니다. 그리고 이주석 기획재정부 정책총괄과장님 참석하셨습니다. 원래 발표 예정이었지만 인도네시아 산업기술연구개발팀장님은 국내 사정으로 인해서 오늘 참석이 어렵게 되었다는 점 양해 말씀드리겠습니다. 네 분의 발표를 먼저 듣고 토론을 진행하겠습니다. 각 발표자분들은 15분씩 발표 시간을 공수해 주시기 부탁드리고 먼저 첫 번째로 로버트 돌프 회장님 발표를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 발표 제목은 스위스의 정책의 사회가 되겠습니다. 부탁드리겠습니다.
Thank you very much, and sorry for being early. Maybe help save some time. Thank you very much for the invitation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to present to you the perspective of the Swiss manufacturing industry. I'm happy that this is of interest to you to learn from an industry that has a long tradition and is evolving quite well. So I would like to organize my presentation in these parts. A little bit of a journey that I would like to take you to learn also from the experiences of our industry. First I want to tell you who we are, what our organization is, about our industry, where do we come from, what are the framework conditions that we as a Swiss industry operate within, what are currently our challenges on this journey, and what are the policies that we need to be competitive in the future as well. Who we are, here you see a selection of products that our industry manufactures. So Swissmen, as an industry association, is responsible for all of the manufacturing, machinery, electrical, metal processing industries in Switzerland. We have currently a membership of 150 member companies. Together, all the industry sector, they provide about 7% of the GDP of Switzerland, and 30% of all of the Swiss exports come out of our industry. And despite any talks about industrialization in Switzerland, we still provide 6.4% of the total workforce in Switzerland. So where do we come from? Switzerland has a very long industrial tradition. We have companies in Switzerland who have several years ago celebrated their 150th. The small domestic market, this is quite surprising, because due to this very small domestic markets, we have to be exporting to sustain our operations within Switzerland. And as you might be aware, Switzerland is a very high-priced country. Together with Norway, we're leading the rankings in production costs. We are in a particular special situation to be able to manufacture in Switzerland and export all the way around the world. This led to the fact that very early on, due to the high prices, we had to diversify our value chains. So we really developed over the century, or the decades, a really global supply chain to manage to be competitive. And we also have a very strong commitment in vocational education and training. This is also a very long tradition in Switzerland, already in the guilds in the 1800s. We started with the VT system in Switzerland. The first apprenticeship contracts in Switzerland was signed in the industry in 1865. So this is a system that we are extremely committed to, and you can learn from that when you look at the figures of the apprenticeship positions we have in Switzerland. In our industry, 7% of the employees are apprentices of the VT system. Also, traditionally, we have a very strong collaboration with the institution of higher education, in particular universities of applied sciences. There are in total eight universities of applied science in Switzerland, in all regions of Switzerland, and this is the closest and most even-leveled universities where companies can collaborate with. And the Swiss people, they like to save money, as you know. They like to save gold, but they also like to spend and to get even better with what they're doing. So we have a strong tradition also in investing our revenues in infrastructure, manufacturing infrastructure, in R&D, and in the people themselves. So continuous education is always a big issue. And this is the only way for our, let's say, USP of having high quality, high reliability, and high efficiency in our manufacturing. So what are our framework conditions? The framework conditions that we have enjoyed so far is really to have excellent public universities. Almost all universities in Switzerland are public universities, and if you have looked at the recent ranking of the Times Higher Education, you can see that there are 3 universities within Switzerland are amongst the top 100 universities in the world. And this is, even though they're doing mostly fundamental research, which takes 10 to 20, 25 years to make value in our industry, still, this is what we need as the backbone, as the future source of our industry. And not to forget, not only research, but also the teaching. We need the best qualified, the best trained people in our industry. And this is what we get through having excellent universities. Tax policy, of course, is an interesting one. When I heard Mr. Baumel this morning about the tax rates in France, that would be quite a shock to every Swiss company, so we are enjoying a much more moderate tax policy in Switzerland. Labor market, liberal labor market is a high issue for Switzerland as well. We are enjoying a very liberal labor market with rather weak unions, but this led to an extremely high loyalty from our employees to the companies. When we had the currency increase in 2015, many of our member companies had to work short hours, had to reduce the working hours, and all these measures were carried on by the employees because they knew they have to have measures to sustain their jobs. So we have an extremely good loyalty among our employees, and this is something that we have to count on also for the future. Migration policy, you know, Switzerland is a migration country in the middle of Europe. If we wouldn't have such a very open migration policy, we would not be where we are today in terms of competitiveness. We already, I will come to that later on, we have a shortage on skilled labor force, and we have been counting for decades now on skilled labor force from abroad. And of course, free trade policy as well. Our government is pursuing a very progressive free trade policy, which is something which we very much support, because this really allows us to improve our global supply chain on our export activities. I skipped the VAT system. I have statistics here as well. In September, there were the World Skills, the World Championships in VAT professions. I congratulate Korea to having the third place just before Switzerland. Together with Korea and China, we have a very long tradition in excelling at these VAT competitions, and I think both of our countries want certainly to continue on that track. To show the success of this framework, of this history and these framework conditions, sorry, it's in German, I only had it in German, is our position as an exporter in the machinery industry. You can see Switzerland here on second position on per capita exports in machinery. Overall, in the absolute numbers, that's ranked 13 among all the machine exporters in Switzerland for a country of 8.5 million people. That's quite amazing. Another statistics that has been shown before today is from the World Economic Forum, the competitiveness ranking. Here we dropped, unfortunately, to place number 5. For many years we were number 1, and when they introduced the index 4.0, taking into account digital issues, this is when we lost 4 positions, which was quite a shock across Switzerland, because nobody could imagine that taking strong account for digital issues that we would drop so dramatically. So this is certainly something that we want to work on in Switzerland. The last ranking I have here is the innovation ranking from the World Intellectual Property Organization. For I think about the 8th year in a row, we ranked number 1. So it seems like the framework conditions we have and the history that we have in our industry, this is a quite good starting place for having good positions in all these rankings. What currently are the challenges that we are facing? There's quite a range of challenges. First of all, I really put that on first place, shortage of skilled labor force. It's not about the right skills, it's just a question of quantities. We are really missing the people. This is due to the demographic development that we have in Switzerland, the baby boomers retiring now, and the birth rates being quite low. The only reason why it's not worse is really immigration. Without immigration, that would be really life-threatening to our industry. So we have to take care about the skilled labor force, and we as an association, our member companies, but also the government is taking measures there. The missing skills, I will come back to that later when I talk about the policy. In many fields, I'm not necessarily talking about specific technologies like AI, IoT and so on. It's really on a different level where we miss the skills. And in particular the SMEs, and 89% of the Swiss manufacturing industry consists of SMEs, is really the complexity of the world that they're living today with the products, with the processes. Technology-wise, it has gone broader and broader over the last decades, and now all the digital technologies, the digital concept come into play as well. And an SME, it's almost impossible to master all these different technologies. And this is a real threat to the small and medium-sized companies, how to handle that. And we're looking forward to solutions. One of them I bring up with the policy afterwards. And coupled to that statement is really in the statistics that we see that the SMEs decrease their activities in R&D. The number of SMEs doing own R&D in Switzerland, as in Germany by the way as well, is decreasing for the last about 6 to 7 years. And this is quite alarming, because without being out of Switzerland to be competitive, you need to be innovative, not only by your products or the service you provide, but also in the processes to be efficient and innovative. Otherwise, you will not be competitive. So we have to work, we have to start to counter trend to this decrease. Exchange rate, of course, that's a different one. We can't do much about that currently. And as mentioned before in the last session, cyber, and I add industrial security. For me, that's 2 different approaches. Is something that we really are challenged by, in particular the SMEs today. So what do we need? What we need, on one hand side, is really a skills strategy, an education strategy. And when I talk about skills, it's on different levels. And we need to differentiate the discussion on the skills here. If you look at this, I'm sure you're familiar with this pyramid. This is kind of the skills hierarchy in a company. You have the very high skilled persons, they're usually the inventors within the company. You have a range of people who are the integrators, who realize the solutions. And then you have a lot of people who are the operators. And this, the differentiator, the distribution of these skills varies from company to company, but also from country to country. In Switzerland, with the VET system, the range of the highly skilled people is quite high, not necessarily inventors, but as mostly these are the integrators. And so we must cater our skills development to these different necessities on these different levels. And without that, we invest a lot of resources in skills who are highly inefficient. We really need to address that, and to be able to address that, we need to talk to the companies to do that. And what we as an association are doing in this field, we are currently running a reform on our VET programs, a total reform of our VET program to adapt them to the needs of our companies. And the second scope of skills is what the European Union has laid out in their DICCOM, Digital Competencies 2.0 landscape. We need to talk about basic digital skills as well. And this is not only particular to an individual company, this is particular to everybody in our society. To be able to sustain our lives, to manage our lives in the societal context, but also in the professional context, whatever industry or sector they're working in, we need fundamental training in these fields that you can read here. This is just basic: how to operate, what is your interactions with the digital world. We need to do that also to avoid any gaps within the society or in the workforce. This is the first priority that we need to have as a society. Second one, keep the investments in research and teaching high. Like probably in almost every country, the financing, the funding for research and teaching is always under scrutiny, and this is really something that we have to keep high. Innovation communities. I think we have to stop talking about innovation projects and funding innovation projects. With what I said before about the complexity and the interdisciplinarity in particular in our industry, we have to take care of the companies even further. We need to help them discuss the ideas. We have to help them discuss leads in the ideation phase. What is the right thing that they can do? And not only put this in a context with technology, but really put this in a context with the use cases, with the businesses. Because as one of the very early speakers said, it's not about technology, it's about use cases, and even more important, it's about the culture, about the organization within the companies. This is what makes digitalization projects successful. And we need to have different approaches here. When we only finance projects, that's too late. We need to help the companies get on the right track, on the perfect project or the perfect lead even further, even earlier. Tax incentives, we think this is one thing that we need. We need to reward. We don't only need to support and help and protect the companies. We need to reward them. And tax incentives, several European countries have already introduced that. This is one of these means which I think are very valuable there. ICT infrastructure, there haven't been much talk about ICT infrastructure, not only 5G, but otherwise broadband networks across the country, international connection. This is one issue as well, of very high discussion in Switzerland there. And cybersecurity, as mentioned before. An SME today, they just can't handle security issues, cybersecurity and industrial security. The architecture of the ICT world of an SME, manufacturing SME, with their suppliers, with the customers, connected machines, within their own production, this is such a complex architecture in view of keeping it safe in such a dynamic environment among the cyber threats. This is not something they just can handle it. I mean, that's the reality. They don't have the resources, don't have the people. We still just don't have enough skilled people to do that, and they need support there. This is, and this is why also have to be transported into the private sector. And we need to stop the companies running on a risk-based best approach model, which will certainly hurt them some, and we need to have measures here to support that. Thank you very much.
네, 이번 회장님의 발표에 감사드립니다. 다음은 레이스 켈리 영국에서 오신 레이스 켈리 담당자께서 영국의 정책과 사례를 발표해 주시겠습니다. 다시 한번 부탁드립니다만 발표 시간이 원래 15분으로 되어 있습니다. 시간 주의 부탁드리겠습니다.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for the thought-provoking morning we have. Thank you to the conference organisers for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the UK's industrial strategy, which is how we're looking to seize the opportunities and mitigate the risks of the fourth industrial revolution. Our industrial strategy was announced in November 2017, so it's just coming up to 2 years old. And it's our ambitious long-term plan to boost productivity. And we're doing that through 3 strands. We're looking to address the 5 foundations, which we think are the drivers of productivity, so a kind of horizontal intervention across the economy. Address the 4 global grand challenges, which are the kind of mega trends that we've chosen as being really important for the global future, but also an area that we think the UK can add value. And we're working directly with business through sector deals. So to start off with the 5 foundations, those are ideas, people, infrastructure, business environment, and places. We think that those are the fundamental drivers of productivity and align to our vision for a transformed economy. To take as an example the ideas foundation, our goal is to be the world's most innovative economy, and we're looking to increase investment in R&D in the UK and boost the impact this has on our economy and society. To build research excellence across the whole country, not just in London, which is an issue we have in the UK, and to maximise the opportunities from our global research and science and research collaboration. The people strand is where we're addressing the skills issue, which is something that has come up several times this morning. Infrastructure is about making sure that we have the right tools for businesses and academia to succeed, and business environment is to make sure that we have the right regulatory frameworks and the ability to be flexible where necessary. As I mentioned, places is a really important strand that runs through everything we do in our industrial strategy and makes sure that the kind of wealth and benefits are spread throughout the country. One of our key policies in this field is the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. The fund will help deliver grand challenges, which with £2.4 billion of public funding, committed through the first 3 waves of funding competition, which has supported areas such as battery innovation, cutting-edge healthcare, transforming construction, and prospering from the energy revolution. Multinational companies with operations in the UK are able to make funding proposals to the ISCF if they fulfill other listed criteria. So this is open to any multinational global company that has a base in the UK. Speaking of business, our sector deals set out clear opportunities, expectations, and actions for both industry and government. They're quite a new concept for the UK, so instead of just administering funding, the idea is that it's a kind of negotiated deal with different sectors. And they're not actually just funding based. We've also managed to negotiate things like diversity targets in the nuclear industry, specific apprenticeship standards, so it's also a mechanism through which we can deliver regulatory change. It means that it opens up our ability to engage with industry in a direct way. They're built on the recognition that the business community is best placed to identify what they really need, And based on those needs, through sector deals, the government will then support those sectors to grow, invest, and reach their potential so that we can bring down any specific barriers to productivity. On to the UK's 4 global grand challenges. The industrial strategy identifies 4, and they're strategic but choices for the UK, and they help us focus our attention and direct our strengths. Those 4 are to put the UK at the forefront of the artificial intelligence and data revolution, to maximise the advantages for UK industry from the global shift to clean growth, to become a world leader in the future of mobility, which is the way people, goods and services move, and to harness the power of innovation to meet the needs for an ageing society. So those are really consistent with the kind of challenges we've been hearing across the board this morning. And I think it's really important that it's a way for the UK to bring together economic and social policy. So these grand challenges convene experts not just from within my department, which is the business and economic department, but across our government, and also through industry and academia. So they're a really powerful convening mechanism. Where appropriate, we are setting missions within the grand challenges to tackle specific issues. And I'm going to take clean growth as an example. We want to at least halve the energy use of new buildings in the UK by 2030, and to establish the world's first net zero carbon industrial cluster by 2040, and at least 1 low carbon cluster by 2030. On the 27th of June, the UK government also set a legally binding target to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions from across the UK economy by 2050, which is obviously an extraordinarily ambitious target. We're the first major economy to legislate for a net zero target. We also have the opportunity to host the UN climate change conference in next year, which we really hope will be a way of us driving forward even more ambition in clean growth. And in order to achieve our goals, we've also published the Clean Growth Strategy in October. The Clean Growth Strategy set out our policies and proposals for reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, while also stimulating growth and creating thousands of jobs. So it's about both sides of that coin, making sure that we are protecting the planet but also supporting growth and making sure it's sustainable. We've invested over 2.5 billion of government funding, or we will be investing in low carbon innovation up to 2021. And for my next slide, the grand challenges are not just domestic. Indeed, the entire industrial strategy is intended to be internationalised. They're shared global challenges, and working with partners abroad will be key to developing innovative solutions. For example, you can see lots of examples here, but I think the writing is probably pretty tiny. The UK hosted the first zero-emission vehicle summit, signing a declaration in Birmingham on low-emission vehicles and generating over £500 million of private investment, and that was signed by 13 governments. We have a major partnership with the Northern Future Forum, which is the UK, Nordics and Baltics, to pioneer policies for ageing societies. And we also have a number of bilateral collaborations in the field of the industrial strategy, for example with Korea on smart energy innovation, which committed around £6 million in total from 2018 to 2021 to deliver a bilateral competition on smart energy innovation, and that was announced in January of last year. So you can see that although we have our domestic framework for this, we're really relying on internationalising it to make sure that we're maximising the benefits. And I would encourage you to engage with both us as a department in the UK, but also with the British Embassy, particularly here in Seoul. Thank you very much.
네, 발표에 감사드립니다. 다음으로는 밀란 라이치아 슬로바키아 경제정책국장께서 발표해 주시겠습니다.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Looking at you and at the mood at this hall, I'd like to start with one joke to uplift the mood. In one non-identified country, there is a train moving between 2 points, A and B. In the middle of the route, the train stops and 2 people enter the train. The train starts moving. the two people are sitting opposite each other. One is asking the partner, hello, where are you moving? What's your destination? The answer is, I'm moving to the point B. And after a while, he is answering his partner, and where are you moving, my friend? I'm moving to the point A. Then after a while of thinking, one of them is saying, fantastic. We are sitting at the same wagon, and the technology is so smart that we are moving opposite directions. So, technology is really, really going progressively ahead. But before starting my presentation, I'd like to focus your attention on the year 2005. And I'd like to recall Thomas Friedman, who proclaimed at that time that the world is flat. He captured that time a very, very calm mood of globalization period. That time on the technological front, the globalization opened the supply of the global chain for semiconductors and for memory chips. But at that time, still this kind of the global value chain was out of the strategic rivalry mindset. And approximately the same time as Thomas Friedman proclaimed the world is flat, this period of the calm mood of globalization has ended. The reason behind was the onset of the very, very new revolutionary machines, above all self-learning machines, machines behind the human capacity, signaling very broad impact on the global economy with the potential even to change the geopolitical balance. And now currently, approximately 14 years after Milton Friedman's proclamation, we are witnessing that we are at a historical inflection point of unprecedented changes, that we see that the technological area is becoming very, very fierce battlefield, and that technological competition is gradually transforming into geopolitical rivalry. Big countries and small countries look at this fierce competition differently. I'd like to share with you how Slovakia, that belongs to the group of the small countries, is perceiving these challenges and how it is dealing with these challenges. My presentation will be structured into 5 points. So, okay, yeah. First, I'd like to introduce you Slovakia only in several points. The reason is why I'm introducing you my country. Basic points is that the scale matters, location matters, then human capital matters, economic profile matters, and international and regional context matters in meeting the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution. So, Slovakia, to give you the basic information, is the country that is located in the Central Europe. We have nearly 50,000 square kilometers, that is twice less than Korea, and we have 5.4 million population, that is 10 times less than Korea. The capital city, very few people know Bratislava, but I'm talking about it because Bratislava is on the border with Austria and Hungary. And in EU context, this triangle is one of the most promising technological triangles in the European Union. Our neighbors are mostly the EU member states, plus Ukraine on the east. Time zone GMT +1, so you see me that I have the big jet lag. GDP per capita in PPP, purchase power is 33,000 over. We had a very good, we enjoyed very good growth. GDP growth, it was 4.5% the last year, and the prediction for this year only 2.9. The very interesting, the point of interest is that Slovakia is the world's biggest car producer when we compute it per capita. So it means that around 250 cars we produce per 1,000 population, altogether over around 1,300,000–400,000 per year. So what are the challenges of building Slovak industry for? Among diversity of needs for creating integrated concept of Industry 4 and strategic value chain and connection to the global creation chain, there are three basic challenges. And these challenges are in the area, social area, in the human management or human capital area, and then in the regional imbalances. So the first one, the social impact. I think that it's very much reflecting the contradiction between what the new technologies are bringing and what the human force is facing. Mr. Reiser today in the morning, he mentioned that the middle-income country faces very, very big challenge in terms of the possibility to replace the human labor with the robotics and automation processes. Slovakia belongs to the group of the countries with a high income, but we are in the bottom of the scale of the high income. And we are the most vulnerable country in the European Union in terms of replacing the human labor force by the robotics and automation. This applies mostly, of course, to the automotive industry because we have in Slovakia the Volkswagen and the Kia, Hyundai, Jaguar, Peugeot, Citroën, very, very strong. It's a key industry in Slovakia. Approximately 44% approximately share of the industry and 40% of our export. What is the background of the problem? Now new technologies are bringing the new opportunities and they are changing the value chain of the production. We realize that more and more the cars are becoming like the PC, like the computers on the wheels. And the engine is suddenly disappearing, the electric dynamo or generator is coming, and very different value chain and very different subcontractors are appearing to supply for the new production of the smart cars and the electric cars. You can imagine that, for instance, the car battery of the electric car represents around 35 to 55% of the price of the electric car. In Central Europe, we have Korean investments, SK Innovation and Samsung, into the battery production. In Hungary, Poland, China is coming with also investment to the battery production. In Slovakia, we are combining the production of the battery car battery together with the research with American companies. And in the end, the European Union has woken up, and last year we adopted the strategy for building the car industry, battery industry. So the value chain of car production, that is the key, that is the core of the Slovak industry, has been changing slowly, and also much more it will depend on the services. And because the public awareness, the public knows already that it's going to be very dangerous in terms of the future vectors of the development, and that they are threatened by the robotization. So it creates also the social pressure. That is the very, very serious issue in my country, and that's why we should very much pay attention to the fourth industrial revolution. Human capital, it's like the contradiction between what is needed for adaptation, for digitalization of the our economy, and what we do have in our hands. It means the human capital. We all know that the economy is not working in some vacuum and that it's populated by the people, and the people are an important factor. And the precursor of successful adaptation to the fourth industrial revolution is exactly the capability of the country to manage the digitalization of the society. Slovakia, as to the basic skills, we are a little above the EU average, but I stress on the basic skills. In terms of the high qualified skills, we are lagging very much behind. And we need the high skilled digital experts for transformation of our economy. The problem is that our education system is not enough prepared to meet the market demand for the digital experts, and also even the experts, they graduate our universities, they are going mostly to other countries when they can find a little better living standards and better income. Regional imbalances. You know, today we've heard a lot about the visions and about the macro, like the bird view on the challenges. But we also have a lot of strategies and we have the visions. But when you come to the grassroots, to the reality, you see that there are the people. They see the problems from very other angle. So in other words, the macroeconomic policy that is trying to adapt the country for the digitalization and the challenges of 4th industrial revolution is a little different as the regional aspects of this process. And in Slovakia, we are the country that 2/3 of our population, they are scattered in nearly 3,000 units, villages across the country, every village less than 1,000 people. And we have only 21 cities bigger than, with this population bigger than 30,000 and 11 bigger than 50,000. And during the last 10 years, around 5% of the population in the 50% of our small cities has migrated to the big cities. So there is a serious problem how to keep, and I think this is not the problem of Slovakia, also of Korea and other countries, how to keep these people, graduated, skilled people in the regions, and how to provide them with opportunities. So strategies. We, as Slovakia, as a small country, we have the limited capacity for R&D. We should be standing on the real ground, and we have to accept that the big revolutionary technological changes are coming from technological powers. So we see our role in supporting our capacity to adapt new technologies and to find our niche in the innovative services. And this space in Slovakia is also in the sectors in education, in creating attracting conditions for the highly skilled people from abroad, and for Slovaks, they are working abroad, but we like to get them back. I'm not saying that we don't have ambitions to participate at high technological researches. We are participating at artificial intelligence integrated network in European Union, and for instance, in the format 17+1, this is the format of China plus 17 countries of the Europe. The Slovakia has become the center of excellence for blockchains. The first conference took part already in October, and the summit will be in November this year. There are different roles of different governments. My time is coming to the end. We perceive in Slovakia that the precursor of digitalization of the society, of the adaptation of the 4th industrial revolution in society is the digitalization. So we are focusing on how to raise the level of the digitally skilled people in my country. And for this, we have adopted several strategies. I'd like to point out that before, in Slovakia, all strategies were short-term strategies. Now, the strategies are covering the period 2030. This is the economic policy, investment plan, education plan, digitalization of the smart cities. And among all these strategies, the most comprehensive one is the digital transformation of Slovakia 2030. This strategy was adopted only this year. It is not only about the industry, but it is about the whole society. The coordinator in Slovakia for this strategy is the Office of the Vice Prime Minister, because he has the capacity of the coordinating and integrating all other ministries. And the digitalization is focusing on 4 areas. That's the economy, practically industry and agriculture, then the society, education, the service, public services, and the regional development that I made known as the 3rd challenge, and the R&D and innovations. So only very, very shortly, any transformation needs to have the starting point and the vectors where to go. So in Slovakia, we decided to make so-called a SWOT analysis, to analyze where is our strengths, weakness, opportunity, and threats. And we did this analysis in the 3 key areas that are driving forces for the digitalization and preparation of the 4th industrial revolution. So infrastructure first, human capital second, and framework of regulations. So, what is our strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats in the first chapter? I'm not going to read everything. I'd like to only point out that the strengths in Slovakia is in telecommunication coverage that includes 94% of the population, telecom market with about standard innovation, and with the innovative potential of the companies in Slovakia. The weakness is we have a quite slow progress in launching 5G, and we expect that this will be only before 2025. In Korea you have already 5G, not in the whole country, but you have already introduced it. Then the Slovak cities we consider should be more active in cooperation and in the smart city innovation processes. Where are opportunities, we see that the public is prepared for the changes, is accepting the changes based on the artificial intelligence. The Slovak capital is very well positioned on the border of 3 countries and can become the hub of the innovations. We are very strong in the car production, and we are in the EU context. It means that we are able to enjoy the EU digital innovation hub system. The threats, of course, time, financial hurdles, and cybersecurity, that was already mentioned today. The human capital is the second one. I mentioned that we have quite good basic digital skills. We have a 59% of population digitally educated. EU average is only 57. We have good potential for IoT, school programs. And one interesting point, today we have listened, even here from the Mr. Chan, the chair of the committee, that in Korea you have the committee that provides the recommendations to the president how to deal with the challenges. In our case, in Slovakia, we created digital coalition that incorporates government officials, private sector, academic spheres, and public representatives. The benefit of this is that it is not the recommendation going to the government, but exactly on the ground of the digital coalition, there are already opportunities to reflect a lot of offers and recommendations and views from the government point of view. So the process is more effectively working than only when it is the committee and then committees coming with recommendation. Government is directly incorporated into this digital coalition. The weakness is we have a push system in education and we need to change it. And it's quite alarming that in terms of the STEM graduates, science, technology, engineering and math, only 6.7% of male and 0.6% of female, they graduate from this kind of the universities. Opportunities, I think that we are quite well doing now with the complex reform of the education that is under the process. And there is very, very well going on so-called continual education, with a lot of requalification, training, education courses. The threats, regional gaps, and labor mobility is missing. The last one, framework of regulations. I think that we all know that there is no global management of the regulation. China has its own regulation, the US depending on the states, and the EU still is working on. In Slovakia, we opened the portal for data that is allowing utilization of the data based on the public license system. Weakness is that still, though we are perceiving the challenges, we still have orientation for the industry on the traditional sectors. We don't have sufficient legislation, opportunities. I think that the most important is EU context of the policies that we are utilizing, and the threats. Threats mostly of the regulatory arbitration impact. I wrap up and thank you for the attention.
발표의 감사드립니다. 다음은 마지막 발표자입니다. 콜롬비아의 호르헤 카스타뇨 구티에레스 원장님께 발표를 부탁드리겠습니다.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Mi presentación la voy a hacer en español. Mi coreano no es muy bueno, así que voy a intentar hacerlo en español. Muchas gracias a todos por la asistencia en esta tarde. Espero que disfruten de una presentación de un país, Colombia, un gran hermano de Corea. Hemos tenido relaciones por mucho tiempo, así que realmente es muy importante para nosotros poder estar aquí compartiendo con ustedes nuestra posición. Rápidamente, Colombia es un país de 48 millones de habitantes, con cerca de 1.140.000 kilómetros cuadrados de área. Es el país número 37 miembro de la OECD. Hace parte del 10% de países que en el mundo hoy tienen una perspectiva positiva de crecimiento, muy cercana al 3% para este año, y para el año entrante 3.5%. Entonces, desde esta perspectiva queremos compartir cómo en Colombia hemos venido liderando en la región la transformación digital de un sector que es fundamental. Quisiera iniciar con una reflexión que es muy importante para todos nosotros. Claro, la tecnología y la innovación son absolutamente fundamentales en la transformación y en dar saltos hacia el progreso económico. Pero realmente una reflexión válida es entender qué es progreso económico. Y la única razón, y en mi posición como superintendente financiero, soy la autoridad en Colombia que supervisa todo el sistema financiero. Mi trabajo solo tiene sentido si somos capaces de cambiar la vida de las personas, y eso es lo que hace la revolución 4.0, tener frescas oportunidades para poder avanzar en dar mejor posibilidades y mejores oportunidades a todo el mundo. Financiación, infraestructura, seguridad, salud, muchos factores que seguramente todos ustedes han escuchado en el día de hoy. Sin embargo, para nosotros, pues esto se ha convertido en una política pública. Colombia es el primer centro para la cuarta revolución industrial que hemos creado por el apoyo del World Economic Forum en español. Es el primero en su naturaleza en Latinoamérica. Queremos seguir allí avanzando y construyendo, poniendo a la academia, poniendo a los gobiernos, poniendo al sector privado en capacidad de poder discutir y avanzar en una asociación público-privada en lo que somos capaces de construir como país. Somos el quinto centro a nivel mundial. Esto explica mucho de cómo Colombia quiere liderar y está tomando la delantera en la región para avanzar en estos tres campos. En el primero, inteligencia artificial, el Internet de las cosas y por supuesto blockchain o DLT como tecnologías que apalancan muchos de los procesos que nosotros hemos venido avanzando. Por supuesto, también la política pública viene acompañado con un plan de gobierno a nivel nacional. Hemos en el Plan Nacional de Desarrollo, que es la hoja de ruta del gobierno colombiano para los próximos 4 años, hemos incluido 3 apenas de los objetivos que queremos nosotros desarrollar: transformación digital, todo lo que tiene que ver con ciencia, tecnología e innovación, y por supuesto la promoción de la cultura y la economía naranja. De muchos de los en donde también tenemos un gran interés en avanzar en la creación de un ecosistema que le permita a los emprendimientos poder innovar y poder tener los recursos suficientes para poder avanzar en el desarrollo de sus estrategias. Aquí está una relación de las entidades públicas, de las entidades privadas o una mezcla de ambas, en donde específicamente somos capaces como país de poder generar un ecosistema que sea capaz de abrazar la transformación tecnológica desde diferentes perspectivas. Por supuesto, Colombia tomó una decisión muy importante y estratégica, y es apalancarse en el sistema financiero para poder generar esa transformación digital. Ese sistema financiero que por supuesto tiene unas características que nos ayudan a generar más tracción en todo el entorno de transformación digital que queremos en nuestro país. Un sistema financiero que es capaz de incluir o de integrar todos los actores claves, el gobierno, el sector real, el sector corporativo y por supuesto nuestro sistema financiero, acostumbrado a construir confianza a través de capital, a través de la gestión de los riesgos, a través de diferentes perspectivas que le ayudan a que exista ese entorno adecuado para que la tecnología sea bien recibida por la sociedad, que impulsa la escalabilidad y adaptaciones o adopciones masivas a través de diferentes esquemas, sabe manejar riesgos y por supuesto ha tenido la disposición, como lo vamos a ver, a que en Colombia se adopten estas tecnologías emergentes. Colombia ha tenido unas cifras bien interesantes en este caso que queremos analizar, y es cómo se le llega a todos los colombianos a través de diferentes canales financieros. Las transacciones basadas en aplicaciones móviles, basadas en internet, están teniendo cada vez más participación en el desarrollo y el ofrecimiento de productos y servicios financieros. Las tasas de crecimiento de estos canales también son bien importantes, y esto tiene sentido, como lo digo desde el inicio, porque esto es poderle llegar a toda la población con una oferta que le resulte acomodada a sus necesidades. Los indicadores financieros de inclusión en nuestro país, y es parte de la estrategia, la transformación digital del sistema financiero debe permitirnos llegar a todas las regiones del país y a todas las personas. El sistema financiero debe ser de todos y debe ser para todos. El indicador en Colombia es del 82% de por lo menos de los adultos que tienen por lo menos un producto o un servicio financiero activo. Pero si nosotros vamos a ver el uso de los productos o analizándolo por ubicación de donde se encuentran estas personas, por género o por edades, los retos son bastante grandes. No podemos pensar en apoyar emprendimiento o en apoyar desarrollos si no tenemos un canal como el sistema financiero que facilite, optimice y haga más eficiente el uso del sistema de créditos, del sistema de aseguramiento, del sistema incluso de ahorro. Fíjense cómo en la cifra de millennials, los centennials, personas entre 18 y 25 años, tienen un componente de uso del 62%. A ellos son los que la tecnología y la disrupción digital debe servir como instrumento para incorporarlos dentro del funcionamiento del sistema financiero. Claro, hasta ahora hemos hablado del sistema financiero, pero quisiera también contarles cómo las fintechs han aprovechado esta oportunidad de oro para desarrollar un esquema cooperativo entre la industria financiera y la industria de las tecnologías financieras. Aquí tenemos cómo estamos liderando la región por número de startups junto con Brasil y con México relacionadas con fintech. Cerca de 200 emprendimientos han empezado a trabajar o están trabajando en fases más maduras en operar con el sistema financiero, y con esas perspectivas quisiera contarles cuál es la hoja de ruta que tenemos desde el punto de vista de transformación digital, aprovechando las nuevas tecnologías y por supuesto abrazando la innovación. Hemos definido una estrategia comprensiva para promover la sostenibilidad del sistema financiero, pero también promover la inclusión y la responsabilidad en materia de innovación. En la Superintendencia Financiera lanzamos un hub de innovación donde se identifican las oportunidades, donde realmente podemos tratar de entender muy bien cuáles son las barreras que están inhibiendo el desarrollo de la innovación. Tenemos un sandbox regulatorio donde el supervisor, donde siempre había estado acostumbrado a una aplicación dura de las normas, ahora se sienta con la industria vigilada y no vigilada a probar y a entender muy bien cómo podemos promocionar la innovación en el sistema financiero. Tenemos un procedimiento especial para autorizar licencias fintech que quieran desarrollar productos o servicios financieros, y por supuesto tenemos desde la parte de la regulación un esquema regulatorio que es capaz de entender muy bien la transformación digital en términos de ¿qué? De estándares de ciberseguridad, en términos de permitir a todos los proveedores de servicios financieros poder ofrecer sus servicios desde la nube, y por supuesto tener estándares de biometría que nos faciliten poder llegarle a toda la población en Colombia. Ese hub de innovación de la Superintendencia Financiera ha tenido en un año 145 empresas, emprendimientos, iniciativas que están buscando poder desarrollar productos y servicios en nuestro país. Allí está la distribución de en dónde han venido trabajando, específicamente en pagos y remesas, específicamente en lo que tiene que ver con cuentas de ahorros, en lo que tiene que ver con aseguramiento. De estas 145 empresas, 75 de ellas son emprendimientos que se denominan fintech o se califican como fintech. Y son ideas que están en diferentes etapas de maduración, desde una idea específica hasta tener empresas que ya tienen consolidado un negocio y que quieren trabajar para facilitar este proceso de inclusión financiera. Adicionalmente, nuestro sandbox ha mostrado efectividad en términos de ¿qué? De poder apoyar e incubar proyectos que tengan impacto en el funcionamiento del sistema financiero. Tenemos una tasa de éxito en las aprobaciones cercana al 67%, tenemos 6 proyectos que ya han sido aprobados y en este momento estamos avanzando en 9 procesos adicionales para evaluarlos y probar qué tanto la regulación es capaz de permitir esta transformación digital, pero también qué tanto somos capaces de llegarle a más colombianos, y esto nos pone en una posición muy interesante. Al gobierno también le corresponde poner parte del trabajo. La Superintendencia Financiera ha tomado la decisión de moverse al mundo del subtech para poder mejorar nuestras capacidades de supervisión y ganar más eficiencia. La superintendencia se ha movido, la autoridad se ha movido a tener todos sus procesos en la nube. Estamos trabajando en Data Analytics para poder tener capacidades anticipativas en términos de información. Tenemos un proyecto específico de inteligencia artificial, nosotros estamos usando esta tecnología. Nos queremos mover a entender muy bien el blockchain y el DLT. Tenemos unos pilotos específicos con bancos para tratar de promover pagos y compensación y liquidación de valores. También es importante que la superintendencia se mueva en este sentimiento. Nada más ni nada menos porque tenemos esta potencialidad. Ser capaces de anticiparnos a los problemas solamente lo lograremos si manejamos muy bien la información, somos capaces de entender una perspectiva macroprudencial y conocer los riesgos emergentes de nuestro sistema financiero y de lo que está sucediendo con los consumidores. Por supuesto, esta hoja de ruta tiene que estar alineada y es un acto de malabarismo tratar de poder y permitir la innovación financiera al tiempo que necesitamos liderar de alguna forma la prudencialidad, porque de nada nos sirve también tener una industria fintech muy innovadora, pero que no es capaz de ser sostenible en el largo plazo. Aquí estos 10 retos regulatorios pues los venimos trabajando en entender muy bien una regulación divergente para los diferentes actores, el riesgo de gobierno corporativo y los controles, privacidad en la información, todos los procesos de compliance, la administración del riesgo de crédito, pasar de un mundo de datos duros a un mundo de scoring alternativo que nos facilite prestarle a la pequeña y a la mediana empresa, al sector informal. Por supuesto, estándares en materia de ciberseguridad. Trabajar mucho en protección al consumidor y ética y conductas, crímenes financieros y por supuesto la parte dura de la industria financiera que es la necesidad de capital, la necesidad de liquidez. Quiero cerrar con esta diapositiva porque a pesar del esfuerzo que hemos hecho, hay 5 retos sobre los cuales desde un país como Colombia, una economía emergente, necesita avanzar y buscar cooperación en países y entidades como las que se encuentran aquí presentes. Por supuesto, necesitamos preparar a las personas, ya se ha mencionado mucho en cómo tenemos unas habilidades adecuadas para enfrentar este proceso de transformación digital y por supuesto, cómo logramos retener talento. A veces es muy difícil poder conservar estas personas dentro de las entidades que están trabajando ya sea en el sector público o en el sector privado. Necesitamos trabajar en educación financiera digital, que el consumidor financiero, además de estar empoderado para poder tomar sus decisiones, sea capaz de entender sus obligaciones, sus deberes, de lo que implica entrar en un mundo donde realmente es diferente la oferta de valor del sistema financiero como la expectativa que él tiene en términos de consumidor. La última milla, llegarle finalmente a ese señor ubicado en zonas rurales, a esa persona que se dedica de alguna forma en un segmento que no es tan formal. Llegarle a él necesitamos de alguna forma también avanzar en procesos de innovación porque es la parte más difícil. Hoy tenemos 100% de cobertura en el territorio colombiano, pero necesitamos asegurar que se use esa tecnología y que se use el sistema financiero. Ya se ha mencionado aquí también la protección de datos, quién es el dueño de la información. Colombia como país emergente se encuentra ante una decisión que tiene Estados Unidos y otra decisión que tiene Europa. ¿Cuál es el mejor camino? ¿Cómo hacemos nosotros en la región para entender cómo debemos movernos en términos de protección de datos? Por supuesto, la regulación antitrust o de competencia. ¿Cómo es este nuevo entorno donde los jugadores juegan de una manera diferente a lo que tradicionalmente hemos venido viendo? Y finalmente, por supuesto, cómo apalancamos toda esta estrategia de innovación en el caso concreto del sistema financiero, como lo hemos mostrado, a través de entidades que son sostenibles en el mediano y el largo plazo. Por supuesto, la tecnología, la innovación es un medio, no es en sí mismo un fin, solo sirve en la medida en que seamos capaces de, insisto, cambiarle la vida a las personas. Muchas gracias por su tiempo. Si están interesados pueden descargar esta presentación escaneando este código QR. Muchas gracias por su atención y espero que hayan disfrutado de esta presentación.
네 분의 발표가 끝났습니다. 토론 시작에 앞서서 두 가지 안내 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 첫 번째, 잠시 후 소개드릴 클리어콜 공지장님께서는 좀 별도의 발표를 해주시고 질문을 해주신다고 합니다. 두 번째로는 토론자분들께 좀 당부 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 시간 관계상 2개 정도 질문만 부탁을 드리겠습니다. 네, 바로 토론을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 클리어콜이 공지장님 소개를 드리겠습니다.
Before we start the discussion, I'd like to talk through a piece of work that my team and I have finished ranking countries around digital innovation for industry. I hope this will spark good debate amongst the panelists with agreements or disagreements, and I'd certainly love to talk about it afterwards in the break. My company is called Bloomberg, and we are a big US firm. I work for their research arm, Bloomberg NEF. And we particularly think about disruption across industries we think are changing very fast. So the work that we write, and my team writes as the digital industry team, is around things like electric vehicles, new commodities, 3D printing and materials, industrial digitalization, and clean tech. We are well known for our solar and wind research and battery research, for instance. We do a lot of rankings and research looking at leaders' positions, and a large part of our work, and what I will show you today, is looking at how do you discern good strategy, good policy, and long-term goals, and how do we provide our clients with guidance along those areas. So our clients are everyone from big corporates to governments to a number of technology firms. What I want to talk through as context for our discussion is this idea of how do we track industry? We talk about industrial digitalization, but where is the data to back this up? And a large part of what Bloomberg does is collect those data points. So when it comes to industry digitalization, we've been looking at things like projects and partnerships, announcements by industry around trends and growth. And you can see here the power, manufacturing, oil and gas sector, as well as larger cross-sector technologies like 5G and AI and blockchain have been growing significantly. This year alone, we've seen 250 partnerships and project announcements run by countries that have spoken today and their corporate leaders around digitalization. And specifically, there's a few countries leading the pack. Unsurprisingly, perhaps, the United States and China particularly have announced in the last year and a half a lot of projects and partnerships around industrial digitalization. But there's also been a lot of international cooperation. We often discuss AI and digital technologies as actually being kind of national IP, and a lot of countries are keeping them to themselves and creating boundaries around data and IP. But there's still a lot of collaboration, as we've heard today, between countries as they try and work out the best way of supporting each other. There are four main reasons, I think, why companies should digitalize or are digitalizing. And this is really important when thinking about good policy. There's two defensive reasons and two more offensive reasons. Nation states should help companies digitalize because it will help their competitiveness. Companies think about digitalization when it's about losses, reducing downtime, improving profits. They also want to try and meet regulations that countries put upon them. And by digitalizing, we can meet clean goals, CO2 emission reduction goals, enhance safety and the workforce. Corporates also, and countries should care about this, corporates also are generating new value through digitalization, enhancing services, and they're also building new business models. We've seen in the consumer section a lot of new business models moving towards as a service through apps on your phone and new things like ride-hailing and so forth. Capital light ways of accessing services. And what we're seeing in industry is a move towards this as well. Will change the way that tax codes are written, change the way depreciation happens, change the income of governments, and all of this has to be kept a close eye on by regulators and by policy setters. Now, the reason why digital industry is causing governments to be concerned are things we've talked about today already, and they're mainly barriers. Governments haven't needed to regulate and set policy for consumer digitalization. It has just happened. We've been using apps on our phone, social media, without needing government intervention, besides around protection of data. In industry, machines are old and do not connect to the internet. People are struggling in factories to take up the opportunity of digitalization because they're scared about layoffs. Systems are not integrated across factories, across power plants, and across oil companies, and that makes it hard to digitalize. And there are also the incumbent providers. The people providing services to industry now may not be the best companies to provide future digital services. It will cause disruption, and that's a real concern for governments, that they are trying to protect incumbents, but also incentivize SMEs and startups to grow. This is the picture of the oil sector and how it is being attacked by various digital companies and service providers. It is messy. This is very unlike 10 years ago. Oil companies are used to a few big service providers, and Halliburton, Schlumberger, companies like that are champions of their countries. Schlumberger is one of the largest and successful French companies, and now they are tackling competition from many other providers. And what we're seeing is startups are successful, yes, but governments also are worried about those incumbents and where they sit, and what that means for the future GDP and future employment. Specifically, I think there are three types of companies serving future industrial IoT, industrial AI industries. And these are all types of companies that either have enjoyed previous support from governments or are looking to enjoy support from governments coming in the future. And governments have to decide very clearly which ones do they support and subsidize, which ones do they regulate. Here you can see we're talking about the big cloud computing companies, Amazon, Alibaba, Microsoft. We're also talking about the big industrials, it's been mentioned today already. Companies like Toshiba, ABB, GE, that are the linchpin of a lot of big kind of national industry. And then the startups. Many countries spoken today are supporting startups. But how to do that without hurting the other companies on this list? How do they grow successfully? How do you support them? So, now to our rankings. We looked at the 40 largest economies in the world, and we built basically an index looking at 16 different metrics to decide which ones are leading industrial digitalization. This shows the top 20. This ranking was published a couple of months ago. We took input from these countries and from these governments. And you can see here a strong focus towards Europe and Asia, with the Americas less supported. We actually ranked a number of large governments, like the the US, lower than perhaps you might assume, because a number of countries have jumped up to the top due to their strong industrial policy. We see Germany, who invented the term Industry 4.0, alongside a number of Asian countries, including South Korea, as they begin to think about how they are going to support digital industry. I want to finish by showing you some of the key things we think makes up a good digital industry policy. First up, roadmaps and targets. A number of countries have set specific quantitative targets. The UK and Germany and South Korea, as well as Singapore and Brazil, have all set up good targets for when they want to achieve something, and they are giving certain departments remit over that, and they are deciding based on strengths where they should focus. A good country cannot do everything, and a good policy needs to pick 3 or 4 sectors they think they're strong in. Second up, they've assigned government departments, and this is important. Each country has a different focus. For instance, Israel has set a lot of its industrial IoT policy under the Innovation Authority. Israel has a very strong startup culture, a strong innovation culture. It makes sense that their successful authority should do this. But in Singapore, their main aim is to bolster the manufacturing sector. So they've set all of their industrial IoT policy under their Economic Development Board, which also makes sense. In Thailand aims to lead the Southeast Asian countries, so it's set up an Eastern Economic Corridor, and that's underneath that is where its digital policy is going. Investment. There has to be money behind this, and we've heard a lot of announcements today about money being funded by governments. These are some of the countries we think have particularly strong investments around AI policy, perhaps. The UK has invested, or pledged to invest over $1 billion in AI, as have France and Germany and the EU. South Korea announced a $2 billion investment in AI last year. The Japanese government's R&D budget is $36 billion by 2022, and they want most of that to go into technology. And in China, there has been a strong push for the Chinese government to want its corporates to develop new chips to help its digitalization. And they've pledged $20 billion to invest in chip companies. Fourth, training. We've seen a number of countries today announce programs around training. Sweden, the UAE, France and Australia all have strong training programs. They have things like technology visas to entice foreign workers. In Sweden, they're investing directly into universities. This year alone, 35 universities in China have announced AI training programs. And in the UAE, there's an innovation hub that's been supporting training new workers. And finally, corporates. You cannot create policy in a vacuum. Corporations are incredibly important to the success of digitalization, maybe goes without saying. And what we've seen in very strong policy is governments keeping corporates to account with co-investing. In South Korea, for instance, the Korean government has announced a $25 billion investment in new industries around digitalization. At the same time, they hold to account their big industrials like Samsung and LG to invest the same amount in their own digital strategies. We've seen the same thing in Spain and Germany and the UAE and the UK with SME investment particularly. There's this concern, it was mentioned already today on this panel, about small and medium-sized enterprises being left behind. And so what we're seeing is a very good strategy is focusing on SMEs, providing them investment, and particularly training and partnerships, helping them link up with companies that can serve them better. Hopefully that was a fair introduction to some of the work that we've been doing, and hopefully some food for thought to add to the great comments already made on this panel. I'd like to wrap up there, and hopefully we can begin the discussion.
저는 그냥 앉아서 하겠습니다. 보통 이런 회사는 외국에서 좋은 이야기를 들으려는 거지 전문 담당자가 와서 정책 설명하는 건 아닌데 그래도 저도 불려나왔으니까 조금만 정책 설명을 해드리고 그리고 이 참석자들한테 한번 질문을 해보도록 하겠습니다. 저희 대한민국 정부도 4차 산업혁명이 굉장히 중요한 것이고 또 우리 경제를 이끌어나갈 중요한 성장의 동력이기 때문에 여러 가지 정책들을 추진하고 있습니다. 그래서 아시는 것처럼 혁신성장이라는 이름으로 4차 산업혁명과 디지털 경제에 대응하기 위한 노력들을 굉장히 여러 가지로 해왔고요. 특히 이제 내년 같은 경우에는 소위 DNA 플러스 빅3라고 해서 데이터, 네트워크, AI, 그러니까 데이터에서 빅데이터 쪽에 전략적인 투자를 많이 늘리는 것이고 그다음에 네트워크 쪽으로는 5G에 대한 아시는 것처럼 저희가 세계 최초로 5G 상용화를 이뤘기 때문에 5G 네트워크를 좀 공격적인 투자를 통해서 확산시키는 데 주력하고 있고요. 그 다음에 마지막으로 인공지능에 대해서 인공지능이 굉장히 미래에 여러 가지 사회 사업들의 기본이 될 것이기 때문에 소위 세 가지를 코어 블록으로 해서 확산시키려는 전략을 가지고 있고, 구체적인 사업에 있어서는 첫 번째가 이제 메모리 반도체에 있어서 시스템 반도체 쪽에 좀 전략적인 투자를 많이 해서 확산시키는 전략. 그 다음에 바이오헬스, 이 바이오헬스 쪽에는 지금 우수인재들이 많이 가 있기 때문에 바이오헬스 쪽에 전략적인 투자를 많이 늘리려고 하고 있고, 마지막은 이제 미래차 분야입니다. 전기차라든지 수소차라든지 친환경차라든지 그런 자동차와 관련된 여러 가지 네트워크들. 그래서 이제 내년 한 4.7조 정도 전략적으로 투자를 하려고 하고 있습니다. 오늘 이렇게 발표자분들 또 토론자분들 이렇게 이야기를 해주신 것 중에 제가 생각한 키워드는 한 두 가지입니다. 첫 번째는 아까 우리 커리 본부장님께서도 말씀해 주셨지만 크로스 섹터로 한 투자 이 부분이 굉장히 늘고 있습니다. 제가 아까 말씀드린 DNA, 데이터, 네트워크, AI 부분도 어떻게 보면 이 크로스 섹터라는 부분, 다시 말하면 플랫폼에 대한 투자가 굉장히 늘고 있고 또 플랫폼이 더더욱 중요해지고 있습니다. 그런 차원에서 봤을 때 이제는 혁신이라는 것이 4차 산업혁명에 대비한 기술 개발이나 정책 개발이라는 것이 어느 한 나라 또는 한 회사에만 한정돼서는 안 되고 플랫폼을 기반으로 해서 그 개방된 혁신의 플랫폼을 만드는 것이 중요하다. 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼을 만드는 것이 중요하다는 생각이 듭니다. 그래서 이제 각 발제자들께서 발표해 주신 거에 하나하나 좀 생각을 얹어서 질문을 좀 드리자면, 저는 이제 스위스에서 오신 우리 루돌프 회장님 경우에 특히 이제 스위스 같은 경우는 아까 말한 VT, 직업훈련이라든지 교육이라는 이런 굉장히 강점을 가지고 있는 나라입니다. 그래서 그 기술이 어떻게 보면 오퍼레이션, 인테그레이션, 디벨로퍼까지 가는 상황 속에서 어떻게 이 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼을 잘 형성하고 있는지에 대해서 좀 한번 답변을 듣고 싶고요. 두 번째로 우리 영국에서 오신 그레이스 캐리 씨께는 담당관님께는 영국인 역시 전통적으로 공공 분야와 민간 분야와의 어떤 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼에 대해서 굉장히 강점을 가지고 있는 나라가 알고 있습니다. 그래서 정부 담당자의 입장에서 민간 부분, 프라이빗 섹터의 자원들을 어떻게 모빌라이즈 할 수 있는지 그런 데 대해서 전략적인 그런 어떤 함이랄까 임플리케이션이 있으면 한번 여기 나눠주셨으면 좋겠고요. 그 다음에 이제 슬로바키아에서 우리 리피아 국장님 경우서도 굉장히 전략적인 포인트들을 많이 잘 설명해 주신 것 같습니다. 특히 슬로바키아라는 나라가 가지고 있는 특성을 비추어 봤을 때 EU 내에서의 어떤 전략적인 포지셔닝, 그러니까 EU 내에서도 이런 혁신 성장에 관련돼서 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼이 상당히 빠르게 형성이 되고 있는데 슬로바키아라는 나라의 입장에서 어떻게 전략적으로 포지셔닝을 하고 있는지에 대한 설명을 좀 더 듣고 싶고요. 그 다음에 콜롬비아의 김유성장님은 저 굉장히 놀랐습니다. 이 핀테크 관련해서 상당히 좀 괄목할 만한 굉장히 좀 임프레시브한 결과들을 가지고 계시니 특히 규제 샌드박스가 67%나 성공을 했다는 것에 대해서 굉장히 놀라운 성과로 생각합니다. 우리나라도 규제 샌드박스 올해 시작을 해서 현재 한 140여 건 정도의 규제 샌드박스 사례를 만들긴 했는데 이제 이거를 성공을 시켜야 되는 입장에 있습니다. 그래서 콜롬비아에서의 규제 샌드박스에 이렇게 성공하게 된 어떤 중요한 배경이랄지 또는 정부 차원에서의 지원이나 협력 이런 것들이 어떤지 한번 말씀해 주셨으면 하고요. 마지막으로 네 분 또는 우리 커리 본부장님도 마찬가지지만 또 한 가지가 이 디지털 혁명 시대에서 중요한 것이 이 불안전한 사회를 어떻게 안전망으로서 커버할 수 있느냐. 이 혁신이라는 게 결국 도전인데 안전망이 확실히 되어 있지 않으면 도전할 용기를 내기가 힘듭니다. 그래서 특히 이제 독일 같은 경우에도 저희가 항상 그 제조업 강국으로서의 독일만을 생각하기 쉽기 때문에 인더스트리 4.0만 있는 것으로 오해하기 쉽습니다만 거기에 달면서 노동 4.0, 아르바이텐 4.0이라는 그런 새로운 기치를 가지고 노동 분야에 대해서 어떻게 보호를 하고 근로자들이나 노동자들의 그 숙련도를 어떻게 높이고 새 안전망을 같이 가져갈 것인가, 또 이 디지털화나 4차 산업혁명으로부터 기술적인 진보에 의해서 나타난 실현 문제 같은 것들을 어떻게 해결할 것인가에 대해서 함께 고민하고 있습니다. 그래서 물론 뭐 굉장히 큰 주제가 어려운 주제이긴 하지만 간략하게 한번 말씀 들었으면 좋겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for this question. I'd love to elaborate more on this issue. First of all, my point really is that we have to differentiate between the needs, in particular from the SMEs. We don't think that there are any blueprint solutions, technology-wise, methodology-wise, business model-wise, that can be developed somewhere and then put over into a company. So we have to respect the individual needs of the particular company. And this is also one of the approaches we do with this Industry 2025 initiative, where we want to enable companies to work out their digital strategy, their digital roadmap, really on an individual basis. And we are convinced that each company has to find their own understanding on Industry 4.0. This is kind of the basic understanding that we have. And this, of course, propagates also to training. Following that, each company has to find the right skills, or has to adapt them the right skills, either by their own people, by their own employees, or through partnerships. Partnerships are a very important means here in continuing the companies. And another aspect is the market environment of each company looks different. There are different markets on different maturity states. Last year we made a survey amongst our members to ask what is the maturity of your market, and following what maturity level do you have, because I think it's for managers and companies quite clear, you don't invest in areas where you don't make a difference. You invest in technologies, in Industry 4.0 concepts, if you can sharpen your USP, if you can sharpen your competitiveness. And to our very much surprise, there was only about 20% of the companies responded that they are operating in a very mature market, which requires them to invest in Industry 4.0. And on the other hand, there was about 1/3 of the companies responding in their particular markets. They are very conservative. They're really lagging behind towards the exemplary markets. And so each company has a different setup in which they operate. And turning that into education, which was your question, is we need to, and this is what we do with our reform, we need to evolve the BET courses, the BET profiles that we have. And I think the biggest mistake would be to throw the old ones away and build new ones, because the basic technology in manufacturing industry stays the same. And we need to build on that. You need to know how to operate a machine. You need methodology, know-how also to be a manufacturer operator in the future. So we need to advance or evolve the skills that are being taught in BET programs today. And that is a difficult challenge, because you don't have any extra years that you can people bring them into the learning process. So we are developing a modular concept where we have basic training, what really is needed for the specific profiles, and then we have a whole set of modules with different skills tied to digitalization. And the companies, they have to have the opportunity to train their people in the programs towards their needs. But of course, these people might change companies, might change jobs. So we have to provide modules which they can train on later on, because the variety of job profiles in the manufacturing sector is growing and growing for the last decades, and still growing. So we need to enable our skilled laborers to acquire on a very low obstacle way those skills that they need. And that propagates also towards higher education. I hear many policies investing in R&D and digitalization, mainly again with the technologies that we're talking about. But I think
what is most important is to disseminate these technologies in the different fields, in different scientific fields. You don't live only with AI capacity as a digital technologies. You have to disseminate that into biotechnologies, into architecture, and all the other fields. So we are recommending to our government to invest in R&D and teaching, in research and teaching, not only in this kind of lighthouse technologies, but really make sure that these technologies are equally adopted in all the different scientific fields. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you. I think the question for me was about how we work to mobilise private sector investment and kind of interest in the UK industrial strategy. And although we work with the private sector across the board, probably the most relevant policy intervention here is the sector deals that I mentioned during my presentation. And the way these work is that industries kind of make a proposal into government on what they would like from us. So any industrial strategy challenge fund money that they bid for, they have to commit to match fund. Any kind of regulatory flexibility they ask for from us, we ask for diversity targets, for example, or flexibility on apprenticeships. So it's a real negotiation model, which means that what comes out at the other end is an agreement that, that both government and the private sector have kind of signed up to. And I think it really helps that they are negotiated between ministers and a kind of prominent figure in that sector, and then they are published, so they become a public document. We have 11 at the moment, and they are across really diverse sectors. So from creative industries to nuclear, we have 2 in the life sciences sector. So you can see that it's a model that we've rolled out across the economy. But we found that having a publication and having a negotiation process means that we end up with really tangible, realistic commitments both from government and the private sector, and that helps us maintain momentum and mobilise. Thank you.
May I ask one more question to you about you just mentioned the aging society. So could you elaborate a bit more on the aging society UK government?
Yeah, of course. So the Ageing Society Grand Challenge is a really interesting one because it's right at the cutting edge of kind of the economic and social policy meeting. So it's a general grand challenge on making sure that we are prepared to deal with the fact that our population is ageing, people are staying in work for longer, the skills in labour markets are changing in a way that, that the older population will need to adapt to. But it's actually not just, that, it's also about making sure people can stay in their homes longer, making sure that our National Health Service is prepared for the challenges that are ahead on ageing society. And as I mentioned during my presentation, we have missions underneath the grand challenges. And the Ageing Society mission is a pretty eye-catching one. It's an aspiration for 5 extra years of healthy, independent life by 2050. So the work we're doing around that is around both kind of using AI in early diagnosis, but also, as I say, the kind of healthy, independent aspect of that is really important to us. So it's making sure that mobility solutions and the housing stock is prepared. So it's a really cross economy, but kind of wider than that challenge. Does that help? Great, thank you.
My turn? Thank you. Innovation platforms in Slovakia are developing in the context of European Union policies. It's important to understand because the European Union is providing incentives, investments, framework, regulations, and it's about living space, and all innovation practices practically are integrated into this context. And the EU has a lot of programs and funds for supporting innovation platforms in every member state, including Slovakia. You know, and I'm sure that you are acquainted with the so-called Horizon 2020 that has over 80 billion euro to support the venture businesses and the risky capital then we have the structural and investment fund of 110 billion euro that is supporting the specific research, development and innovation in terms of the defense industry and the space industry. We have also the program, digital program Europe 21-27. This program is focusing to help the member states, including Slovakia of course, in building an integration, the research, development and innovation in artificial intelligence, in developing the high skills of the workers, in creating the platforms that are still not yet established, but they need to be supported by the governments. And then we have so-called the Juncker plan that is now creating the umbrella of all the funds and the programs and giving to member states more easy access to all the European Union context of the innovation platforms. In Slovakia, we are focusing mostly on SMEs because the economic profile is mostly based on the bigger companies that are by themselves able to go ahead with the innovation and research. So the role of the government is mostly to transfer the knowledge about opportunities for innovation to the SMEs and to support them by the setup the good environment and by the framework and the regulation. So this is the core of our future focus, because as I mentioned in my presentation, the problem is mostly in the automotive industry. That is the key and the core of our industry, and we are facing that a lot of SMEs, they serve as the subcontractors, that they can lose their jobs if they are not going to innovate enough.
Bueno, la pregunta para nosotros fue ¿a qué podríamos atribuir el buen desempeño del sandbox regulatorio en Colombia? La respuesta concreta, en nuestra experiencia, 4 puntos. La primera, tener una estrategia pública clara. En Colombia teníamos la necesidad de que las decisiones fueran centradas en el consumidor y una estrategia de inclusión financiera. El segundo, la necesidad de tener un diálogo abierto con la industria financiera y con las entidades fintech, que estuviera basado en la confianza. La tercera, tomar decisiones rápidas. Hay que intentar, hay que probar y hay que equivocarse, controlando los efectos no deseados, pero hay que tomar decisiones en el menor tiempo posible. Y finalmente, la cooperación intergubernamental. Si esto es una política pública, todas las instituciones deben cooperar en ese sentido. Ahora nuestro modelo de sandbox se está replicando en otras autoridades, por ejemplo en el caso del Ministerio de las Telecomunicaciones y de la Información, la tecnología de la información y las comunicaciones está implementando un sandbox para probar algunos elementos basados en 5G, y queremos también desde la autoridad de competencia probar algunos otros elementos, así que a eso le recomendaría yo como clave del buen desempeño del sandbox en Colombia.
Great, thank you for your question. It was related to the job market and how do we, as policymakers and as corporates, think about not leaving people behind and how to make sure there aren't huge job losses and unemployment. I think briefly, because I recognise we're almost out of time, is a large part that has to be at the education base and I think in school. Companies are struggling to retrain people who might have done the same job for 30 years. It is very hard to learn those new skills. Inside a corporate, if you are so used to doing it a certain way, and it's not really on the shoulders of necessarily corporates to be forced or mandated to train their workers. So a large part of what we see in good policy is funding of universities, giving money directly from government to university to set up new programs, or even at the high school age, teaching coding, helping stimulate students in wanting to do some of these new technologies. Although we have seen some good corporates think about retraining at the corporate level, and the big driver there, and the important thing we've seen in the best corporates is the constant learning element. If you send someone to go off and learn coding for a month, and they come back to their old job and they don't practice, those skills get lost and they're rusty. And so we've seen a lot of interesting companies in Europe particularly sending people on training courses but then adapting their jobs so they're able to reuse those skills. We're actually seeing things like virtual reality and augmented reality being used a lot to help with training new skills on the job. So rather than just being in a classroom, learning from a book, a lot of the best retraining skills actually use digital technologies like VR and AR to do that well. And that's been interesting to see happening as well in industry.
네, 이상으로 발표와 토론 시간이 다 끝났습니다. 끝내기에 앞서서 좀 안내 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 처음에 시작할 때 인도네시아의 명확한 프로그램과 따라 청장께서 참석하지 못하셨다고 말씀을 드렸는데 참석하지 못한 것에 대해서 죄송하다고 말씀을 전해주면서 영상을 좀 보내드리겠습니다. 그래서 10분 정도 영상을 보시도록 하고 저희는 발표 마치겠습니다.
First of all, I want to beg or apologize in this case because I with my team couldn't attend the meeting in Korea today because we have another agenda actually in Indonesia, where my minister actually changed to another new minister. So at the first time, we should have a meeting with our new minister in Indonesia. So I can attend this meeting. This is a very, very important meeting in Korea. So once again, I apologize about that case. Indonesia is the big country with the population more than 266 million people. And then our workforce right now is around 131 million people, and then around 40% workforce is work industrial sector. Our GDP contributor majority come from the industrial sectors, and so if we want to meet our economic growth, so the industry is supposed to be treated more consistently and then more strong policy to back up industry, and then so many stakeholders supposed to work together to boost the industry in Indonesia to become more and more productivity and then more efficient. So at the last time, in the end of the day, we can improve our competitiveness product, even not just in regional but also in international market. So facing this case, our government have a policy. The Industrial 4.0 is supposed to be one tool which is make our industry in Indonesia can reach the more competitiveness in the international market. So last year, our President, Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Joko Widodo, so he launched Making Indonesia 4.0 as the one of the national agenda, which is contain roadmap how existing industry in Asia right now to do their transformation to become 4.0. Because in Indonesia we have more than 80 sectors, so at the first time we just choose 5 sectors as an initial step to do the transformation to the 4.0. In terms to have a look how ready actually our industry right now in Indonesia to do the transformation. We already developed the tools, we call it Indi 4.0, which is the tool actually to assess the readiness of Indonesian industry to do the transformation to the 4.0. So we already have assessed around 326 companies in Indonesia, which is in the 5 sector actually, and that the readiness level is around 2.5 scale. So that means industry in Indonesia now they can get ready to do their transformation. We realize that to accelerate the transformation, we should have so many efforts not just inside the country, but also we do the communication with another country, and then we should attend so many exhibitions outside the country. And then beside that, we should set a lighthouse in Indonesia as a reference company which is already fully implemented 4.0 in Indonesia. We now, until now, the World Economic Forum is already certified around 26 companies all over the world as a lighthouse, as a reference company, which is could be used as a reference if another company from another country want to learn how the company actually to do their journey to become 4.0, and then within Lighthouse we can learn so many things in terms of how the starting company, how the company start their effort to do the transformation. In Indonesia, we now have 2 companies as already certified by World Economic Forum as a lighthouse. The names of the company is Schneider, which is their product is electronic, and also Petrosi, their products in petrochemical. And then by 2 companies in Indonesia as a lighthouse of the World Economic Forum. So these 2 companies could be used as a reference for another company if they want to have a look how actually the company do something in their effort to become 4.0. To expose to the international, Indonesia now is already in the journey to go to the 4.0. And then last year, next year, Indonesia become partner country in the Hannover Messe. We now Hannover Messe as the big exhibition in Europe, which is span more than 74 countries, and then also around 6,500 exhibitors, which is attract 250 visitors from all over the world come down there. So we in Indonesia want to show to the world that company in Indonesia has already done the journey to go to the 4.0. But to do so, we need actually the technology provider and then investor also from outside the country to have a look at our journey. And then of course in the exhibition we try to get a partner there, and then try to get a technology provider which could be to do the cooperation with our company in Indonesia. I think that's all we can share to you. Hopefully the meeting today is a good meeting, and then warm discussion, and then give the fruitful for all of us in over the world in terms of journey to go to the Industry 4.0. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
네, 이분과 세션을 알찬 발표와 또 심도 있는 토론으로 꾸며주신 6분의 연사분들, 또 좌장 맡아주신 이상법 본부장님께 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. Hope you can send them off the stage with a big round of applause. Thank you so very much for your insightful session. 네, 5분간 쉬어가는 시간 갖도록 하겠습니다. 3분과 세션 연사분들께서는 준비를 해주시면 되겠습니다.